Welcome back to Brothers Fab and Adventure. Today we're going to start the process of dismantling two machines
and turning them into one. So if you've been following along, you're familiar with this Quad Trac by Arctic that we were testing out last time.
Somebody else had swapped a motor in here that was severely underpowered, especially compared to stock. So we're going to do a swap.
Last time we told you we'd show you what we're going to swap into it, and if you guessed a 2017 Arctic Cat ZR6000, we'll send you a free t-shirt.
This thing should be way better. It's about 30 years newer and 3 times the horsepower.
So we're going to get to figuring out how to take all this apart and keep it intact as possible.
And we'll put a little note in there. We've never worked on either of these machines, so it should be fun.
Yeah, hopefully it'll go pretty smooth though, so we'll show you how it goes.
Looks like somebody had some fun. The whole A-arm is ripped to shreds. Maybe a couple times too. Somebody tried to weld it.
Yeah, there's like a whole piece missing here.
We're gonna start taking apart the snowmobile first because we're less familiar with it, and we need to get a gauge on the size of everything.
Made some pretty good progress here, as you can see, and we've got about 12 3/16 to 1/4 inch from center line to center line on these two. We're gonna squeeze this belt together and take a measurement of the closeness of it to how the top is. Yeah, close to 4. Close to 4. It's like 3 3/4 maybe.
So we've made pretty good progress here. Everything was pretty straightforward, opening it up, just a bunch of bolts. We've got a lot of access to see what needs to happen next, which looks to be a little more complicated, freeing the motor up from its drive system and all that. So we'll walk you through that. First little complication is the motor is connected via this shaft to the chain drive on the other side. So we have to figure out how to get that apart. It's got this big old bracket here that connects them.
And basically a carrier bearing that floats the shaft across.
So I'm pretty sure what we need to do is take these bolts out here, which disconnects a bearing retainer, and then open up the chain drive on this side, and that'll allow us to pound the shaft out and disconnect them. So I started taking this apart, and I was hoping this oil tank was isolated so it'd be really easy to put into the new machine.
Unfortunately, we soon realized that it's actually part of this other half of the chain case, and that's going to add some extra size for the packaging of all of it. So
now that we got the sprocket and chain out, we can start pounding the shaft out. Oh, broke our wood. So one of the next things to do is take the primary clutch off, and we don't have the clutch tool. So I took the main bolt out with a T60 Torx. And I got an extension. I'm gonna shove that in there. And a new bolt.
And what's the bolt, like a 4?
It's a M14 by 1.5. And this one's 100, I think it's 100 millimeters long.
So basically that is going to act as a, it's going to press the two pieces apart.
I struggled with that a bit. That extension that I shoved down in there ended up breaking and bending, and I was never able to get it out of there, which made it pretty bad because even if I had the tool, I wouldn't be able to use it. So what I ended up doing was I got a new bolt for it. It was a M14 by 1.5 by 80 millimeters. And I wrapped it with a bunch of Teflon tape, filled the hole with water, and then tightened the bolt in there, and eventually it popped right on off. So was able to fix that, and I didn't damage anything, so that's a good thing. On to getting this motor out of here. Get this torque plate out of here. Now we got access to the water pump and all that to drain it out. Decided to give it a quick wash before we dug any further into it, and then we went through and disconnected the motor mounts and anything else that was crucial. And now it should be ready to come out. Wish us luck. Ready?
this up. Snag on something over here.
Ready? 1, 2.
All right, now that we got the engine all removed from the sled, we got everything ready, and we're going to get it all cleaned up now before we move forward so that everything's a lot nicer to work with. Oh, that's pretty satisfying. Well, we probably could have dragged this thing out of the way by hand, but this seems like a lot more fun. We went ahead and hooked the tractor up. It'll also be a lot less work, but we can get this thing out of our way. So also, if you're in the market for a parts sled, hit us up. This thing's going to be going on the market. Like a charm.
We're gonna move this thing back so we have a little better area to work on it. You're talking.
All right.
So I guess to the front.
Yeah. Just take it right over the camera.
Luckily, it's easy because it's all aluminum. So after taking the hood off and looking at it a little further, this thing should be pretty easy to get out of there. Just a few motor mounts, a little bit of wiring, and a couple other little brackets. So this should be pretty quick. We got everything disconnected that we were telling you guys about.
And it was a lot easier than the Snowmobile, we can tell you that much.
Yep, but it should be ready to come out of there.
So we're gonna rip it out now.
Hold on. We got tires. That'll be it.
Old motor out. And that's what's
And here's
left.
the gearbox. That's kind of an interesting gearbox. We'll have to open it up and see what it is, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. May need a reseal, probably needs an oil change. Not much to it.
Yeah.
You just gotta fit that motor into here. Which
Now that we got everything apart, we're ready to give it a good clean, so we're ready to figure out where everything goes. Ran into our first little problem here, and it's the secondary clutches. As you guys can see, the first problem is the alignment of them. One is close and one is far away. The next problem is one is a keyed shaft and one goes on a sliding shaft. Which leaves us with kind of two options. Either go through and get a new shaft made for the gearbox, which would be longer and accept the splines. So use the newer style clutch, which would be nice, but there's some space confinement in there, so it might be tough to make that work. The other thing about that is the time involved, money involved, and specialized service to make that happen. I think the easier option is to stick with the stock clutch. It's a little older, but there is another problem with that also. The new belt is wider than the old belt. We're hoping it would be easy, but unfortunately we're gonna have to modify this to make that work too.
So our plan was just to space the two halves of the clutch out, and we were just going to use some washers to do that. We got pretty lucky and we found something that we think is going to work just perfect for us. That's what we're going to do now. Just pull this apart.
Here's kind of what the inside looks like. So we're gonna pull this.
So we got a sleeve here. Because of the way that this works with the snap ring on the end of it, we cannot just put the shims underneath the sleeve because it will extend past that groove for the snap ring. So these are going to slide right over the sleeve and right on the outside of it. And then this is going to go back together. And with any luck, it's going to give us the 15/64 that we need in the belt width difference.
It might give us a little more spring tension, but we have some adjustment marks here.
So the thing about spacing it out is that it could add preload to the spring, which may or may not be a good thing. But this has adjustment built into it. And if we really had to, we could drill some more holes to add more adjustment into it. Because we looked into getting this spring, and I don't even think we can find it. So we may need to tighten it up anyway.
Let us know in the comments what you guys would have done in this situation.
Now we're going to go ahead and get this put back on the gearbox and try to see how the motor fits in there. Fingers crossed it fits.
Yeah, if it fits.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know that you could make that other clutch work because you'd have to space it out so far to clear this. That's pretty much that. Just gotta snug it up a little bit and we can try to fit the motor in here. Well, now it's time to see if this thing will even fit in here. Fingers crossed. Let's roll it back, I guess, to get those under the bar. Yeah. That's where we should be. We might as well check something else while we're here. That's gonna have to go.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut all this stuff out of here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to re-engineer this. So we're looking for about 12¼ center to center, and we're at about 12½. So it looks like we should just barely clear the shifting mechanism there. We've got at least a 1/4 inch so we can move it forward, so that's good.
Can this go down at all? No.
I mean, if we hack this bracket and move it down, it might, but like it's gonna have clearance issues with this pretty quick.
A little bit of adjustments that we still got to figure out.
But basically, as you can see, we have a number of things that are really tight, and it barely is gonna work out, I think. It may take a little creativity, but nothing too crazy, hopefully.
But that's what makes it a fun project.
Right? You're gonna have to stay tuned to see what happens next. We're gonna have plenty of stuff to do here.
Thanks for watching.
Please like, share, and subscribe.
Until next time on Brothers Fab and Adventure.